My name is Ron Cantu, and I'm in the United States Army.
Yeah.
I served in Iraq with the 1st Infantry Division from February 2004 to March 2005, and with the 1st Cavalry Division from December 2006 to January 2008. I'm currently stationed at Fort Hood, Texas. For the record, nothing I say should be construed to be the opinion of the Department of the Army, the Department of the Defense, or the United States government. And I guess I was a last-minute addition, so I didn't really have a whole lot prepared, but I guess my story just came down to one of timing. I ETS'd shortly after 9/11. It was just the end of my 4-year contract, and in between tours, I felt like I kind of left the country when it needed me most. And so I watched the build-up to I watched America build the case for the Iraq War, and I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. I was in school when the war broke out, and I tried desperately to finish my semester, but in late March 2003, I was in that recruiter's office again saying, "You gotta make me a part of this, you have to get me over there." And now, it was just timing, but they could only get me the quickest they could get me out was August 2003. And in May 2003, mission was accomplished. And I was like, great, there goes my stories for my grandkids. You know, I missed my chance at some honor, but soldiers were still dying. And so I get to my duty station in Germany in September 2003, and I find out I'm going to Kuwait in February 2004. And in December 2003, Saddam Hussein was caught. So for the second time, I thought, great, now the war is really over. And I missed my chance again. But we still went, and by that time, I was extremely skeptical of what was going on over there. And over the course of that year, I felt the same frustration that everybody did. I didn't realize that the war was over then and that the occupation had begun. And so it was all just, the only thing we were fighting for was living one more day. And you know, the frustration that no matter what you do, you're not gonna get home any sooner, that even if everybody gave 200%, nothing's gonna get you home any sooner. And I felt the frustration of coming home and having to constantly remind myself that America is a country at war, because you wouldn't know when you look around. And I felt the frustration of having to take my boots off at the airport when I was coming home on R&R because I was randomly selected to be searched. You know, when you're being told that you're making progress. Yeah. And it was in between tours. I did a lot of stuff over there that I'm not ashamed of, I'm not proud of, but that was probably better for the rules of engagement panel. And in between tours, I had time to think about the things that I had done and how we went there under false pretenses and how I went there to help the Iraqi people, and that's not what we were doing, and it wasn't out of being malicious at first. We were just trying to survive, and how the frustration grew, and I started to blame the Iraqi people for us being there. And I did want to see Iraq annihilated, and I just wanted to go home. It was what all of us wanted back then, and it's every bit as true in 2007. But I thought I would tell a story of how the First Amendment really came to bat for me. Right before I went on my second deployment is when I joined IVAW, and I started writing posts that got published on the site, and it started getting attention because here was this active duty soldier getting ready to go on a second deployment, and so it got some media attention. And while I was in Iraq, in Baghdad, I was contacted by a reporter. He said he was with Democracy Now! I had never heard of it before. And I agreed that I would do an interview on so-and-so date, and it just so happened that on the date that they called, I was going to be investigated for something entirely different. I had a website that I didn't register with the command in Iraq, the CENTCOM. It's a policy to register all blogs and websites, and I had failed to register this one. They had found it. I didn't know I was going to be investigated until that day. And I remember I was in my commander's office answering questions when my phone started ringing. And I was like, oh man. And she wanted to know who that was, and I said, it's a reporter. And she gave me a direct order not to talk to the media. Now, this reporter was calling me 1 hour before the show was supposed to happen. And yeah, the phone rang constantly. I didn't answer it, and then it stopped, and I was like, great, they just got the hint. And after I was done, my phone rang again, and I answered it, and he's like, do you still want to do this? We go on in 10 minutes. And I said, I don't think I should. I've just been given a direct order not to speak to the media. And he's like, how about if I just give you 30 seconds to say what you have to say to the American people? And I said, I can work with that. So I had 5 minutes to come up with some 30 seconds to say, and you know, he called, and he's like, I'm going to put you on right now, and I can hear somebody talking, and she wasn't talking to me. And I thought to myself, oh, God, is this live? So she's like, I heard, and she's like, Ron, are you there? She started asking me questions, and I blew her off, and I just blew through my 30-second blurb in about 5 seconds. And she started asking me questions about, and I didn't know what the interview was even going to be about, but she started asking me questions about the appeal for redress, and I was like trying to come up with an answer on the top of my head, and I was like, go to the website. And after a few more questions, I just hung up the phone. I'm like, whoa, that's done. And 10 minutes later, somebody found me, and he's like, the commander wants to see you in her office right now. And I was sad, because I was like, that's it, I'm going to jail. And I was upset, because having gone to school, you know, in America, I'm like, that's not what this country was supposed to be about. All I did was say things that I felt had to be said, that, you know, ask some questions that I didn't think people were asking. I had no idea, well, I knew IVW existed, and I had just joined, but I hadn't met anybody yet. And I was kind of weary of anything labeled anti-war at the time, because I've got so many years of military experience. So I said, I'm not going to take this laying down. And I went in there fully prepared for a confrontation, and I shed a tear or two. And I went in there, and she said, I'm rescinding my order for you not to talk to the media. It is, in fact, your right. It was sink or swim time. At best, I treaded water. And I came out ahead. And it is our right, and I want the service members and my active duty brothers and sisters to know that that is our right. Like Garrett was saying, we do have the right to dissent within the ranks and also serve honorably. My career has not suffered a bit because of anything that I've done in the year and a half that I've been a vocal member of IVAW. And I just want to say that I know that you guys are out there. There's IVAW in every unit, on every post in the military. Even if you're not IVAW members, I know that you're Iraq veterans and you are against this war. And to everybody else, I want to say, please don't let us be the first generation of veterans to be forgotten while our war is going on. It's when you have to look for news on what's going on the other side of the world, it really sends a powerful message to us still on active duty. And in conclusion, I just want to give myself a little shout out. Today's my 30th birthday.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. But the reason I wanted to say that is I'm doing this for the soldiers over there right now so they can one day see 30 as well. Thank you for listening. Thank you.